Now we are delighted to have all of you on board today for this session on demystifying AI and empowering teachers to deliver the CBSE AI curriculum for class 9 to 11. And this is an orientation workshop for teachers and principals from Sahodaya schools to understand the world of artificial intelligence, to help them to teach AI in an exciting manner through games, activities, and discussions with the students. This workshop has been designed to help teachers to get familiar and get motivated towards AI and identifying different project ideas for students which can be developed using we are delighted to have with us Mr. Manav Subodh, who is the co-founder of IMIB. IMIB stands for 1 million. Yeah, I think network issue I'm having it here. Now, Mr. Manav is an advisor with key interest in smart cities, smart village, youth and AI education. He also serves as
I think, ma'am, we lost your voice again. Manila, ma'am, I think, again, we lost your voice.
He served as the Global Entrepreneurship and Innovation Director at Intel Corporation, where he managed and technology entrepreneurship of the Government of India for over 5 years and was a senior advisor to Ernst & Young for Government of Chhattisgarh's policy formation session for Bangalore Sahodaya. We also have Mr. Safin Matthew. He heads the youth program at IMIB and leads the AI Youth Skill Program for IMIB, which aims to accelerate the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals by activating youth to create AI-powered solutions. The AI for Good curriculum designed by Safin students is being used to train students as part of the IBM CBSE AI enabled SEVA program, through which over 6,000 students have been trained in AI. Safin is also a curator of TEDx. Previously, he has worked with the Accenture as software engineer specialist for 4 years. We also have with us Mr. Sudhin Subramaniam, SVP, APAC Communications, Media and Enterprise Services at CGI and head of CSR India. So I have the workshops ahead. Over to you, Mr. Manav.
Thank you so much for that welcome, Ms. Manila. And I understand your connection is definitely an issue, so we're not able
connection is an issue, yeah.
hear properly. But thanks a lot for that. Yes, Manav, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Manila, ma'am. And good morning, everyone. It's so nice to be in this session and so nice to see 217 people logged in right now. It was so nice to see that all of you are so interested in this session that we are doing. And in fact, it just got started 3 weeks back when I met Manila ma'am in her office for some work. And she's, discussing with her the work that we are doing with CBSE schools on AI. And in fact, I had met her earlier when we conducted a workshop on AI in DPS Bangalore East in her school. And the moment I landed up there, she said, Manav, we want you to help out in this for Sahodaya schools. And can we do an introductory session for teachers? So it was so nice of Manila ma'am to introduce us to all of you. And it is our pleasure to be conducted this session on AI. I hope you get value out of it and you can take these to your classrooms. So looking forward to interacting with all the teachers, principals, school administrators who are part of this session. And of course, I don't know if students are joined in, but I don't think so, but in case they are there. So we thought we'll put together a small session to introduce AI and stuff that is happening and sharing more from an experience perspective. Now, to tell you a short story on how this session came together, besides what I just shared with you, but I got invited to be part of the AI curriculum design and the AI implementation program of CBSE, because I do work with IBM, and IBM invited me to this wonderful session that was happening about 2.5 years back in CBSE, and we started discussing on what could be the scope of AI. And there was a lot of people from the other industry, a lot of people, professors from IIT, and so it was a good network and good meeting of people who could probably help CBSE and advise CBSE on what AI curriculum should look like. So we all put our thoughts together, we all came together, and of course IBM gave my team at 1 million for 1 billion, which is what I work for, and I co-founded an opportunity to roll the AI programs in about 100 schools last year. So we rolled out a program with Safin led, and he's going to be talking more about it and sharing the experiences and some of the things that worked, and also a lot of things that didn't work. But the idea really started coming up that we don't want to teach AI like a computer science topic. Of course, it's a computer science topic, but we don't want to make an exclusive island. So I was leading a lot of these teacher roundtables and teacher discussions, and a number of teachers were part of the session that we did. And after that, only we rolled out the AI program in about 100 schools. And of course, Intel took some schools, IBM took some schools, and now the industry is taking the schools. But the idea really was that let's treat AI as a topic which everybody needs to know. It should not just be boys or people interested in computer science, right? And we wanted to include even biology students, even psychology students. AI is a conversation that everybody needs to be part of today. AI is being used in healthcare. It is used for diagnosing mental wellness. So the very fact is AI is like any other language. It's like a tool. So if it is a tool, it should not be restricted to just computer science students. And that advice was taken very well by CBSE, and we started implementing AI in the SEVA programs of CBSE. So AI-enabled SEVA program is what the program that my team led in about 100 schools. We were given, and we said that AI should be looked at solving problems, solving issues. So it should be more like a tool for problem solvers, not just something on Python. Right? Many people think AI is learning computer science and learning Python or learning coding. Well, all that is, yes, our skills to build AI tools and build AI software. But first, what we need to do is excite students on the use of AI, on the possibilities of AI, and the use of good AI, right? AI for good, AI for better India. Now that is a mission I want all of you to think of. How can we use AI and deliver it to our students so that they can create a better world? And the better world is just not restricted to people who just know technology. It is not restricted to people who just know computer science or who want a career in engineering or who want to become like engineers or the software coders. It is a conversation that needs to be introduced to everyone and all students first, because the number of issues India is facing today, AI could be a big tool for some of these problem solvers to go and solve it. So I request you, as you go through this program and the little introduction session, and Safin and I would love to be part of more such sessions. Of course, now the guidance from Manila ma'am on this. But what I want you, all of you, to look at is how AI could be used. AI is nothing but data. How data could be used. And then you can make tools, you can make platforms, you can do coding, you can build it on software. But first we need to excite students on AI, right? And that's what I want all of you to think of, and no better people than teachers to do that. And if we could be a small part in your journey as you talk to students, I mean, our work is done because we want to just give this information to you. And of course, you are the people who are influencing students. You are the people who are creating the next generation of innovators that India will be proud of soon. So we want you to think from that perspective that the context of AI was not a computer science topic, at least when we began. And we want, at least in the lower grades, AI to be seen as something that can be used. So the program has been implemented through my team in partnership with IBM in about 100 schools. 5,000 students have been trained, teachers have been trained. We've got a lot of data to share with you on what has worked and what hasn't. Some of these projects are already, sort of changing the world. We had some of the student projects from Delhi present to Devjani Ghosh, who's the NASSCOM president, just a few weeks back. She was in a similar session. We got the students and the teachers together. So our idea is that let's create relevance of AI and showcase that as an opportunity. There are a lot of students in DPS Bangalore East who are doing phenomenal work on AI. I met them at the Vigyan Bhavan conference that happened last year. So we need to excite students on the use of AI to solve real issues. And I think that's what the session today will focus on. We have a wonderful lineup. We have Mr. Sudhir joining us from CGI. If you know CGI, it is one of the big multinationals in Bangalore today, founded in 1976. They are doing phenomenal work on AI, and he's like a practitioner. He's a business leader who would be talking about AI from his perspective. So we thought we'll get him. And of course, Safin will be taking this session and sharing with you the curriculum, some thought processes, and some best practices. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you, Manila ma'am, for giving my team at 1M1B this opportunity to be part of the Sahodaya schools and get introduced to all the Sahodaya teachers. It's indeed a pleasure, and I look forward to this session, and I look forward to more sessions coming in the future. Thank you so much. Over to you, Safin and ma'am.
Thank you, Manav. It was such a pleasure to have you on board. And our teachers are really excited and looking forward to learn from you all, because CBSE has brought in AI right from standard 6. So they are very curious to know how do we go about, and hand-holding. It is not only the session that is important, but later on the hand-holding is very, very important. Suppose they have any doubts, any clarification, whom they to reach out to. So that is what, teachers are discussing, and that is what they want, assurance from your end by the end of this program. So thank you once again, and over to Safin.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am, and thank you so much, Manav, for the welcome. It's a great opportunity for us to, be interacting with a lot of teachers. In fact, when we sent out the registration, we got about 400 teacher registrations. Almost 240 joined in now. I think there'll be more joining in soon. So great to have all of you in today into the session. And let me just share my screen. I just saw on the chat that some of you have issues with listening and the audio is not working. It might be a network issue at your end, because I don't think everyone's facing that. If not, you can also check your speaker setting. There's this option for next to your mic symbol, speaker. You can select that if you're on your laptop. Sometimes it just goes into headphone or something. You can just check that. Yeah, okay. So let's get started. We have an exciting lineup. So I'll take probably next 1 hour, 20 minutes on a bit about AI. To share with you how can we take AI in an exciting manner for the students. And post that, we have a special guest, Mr. Sudhir, joining us, talking from the industry, talking about how AI is important, and teachers, students, and the education sector should look at AI and not be afraid about it. And we'll also have a student team, which was part of the training program with CBSE and the winner of a challenge, present about the project that they made and how they learned AI. So it's going to be an exciting next 2 hours. So I'll get started. So let's quickly, Manu was sharing about 1M1B and even ma'am. So I just wanted to share that we have been doing AI youth skills training, and we've been advocating for AI youth skills over the last 2 years. We have been saying that children don't need to, complete their engineering or, or PhD to learn about AI, you can start with AI now. Start creating an impact. Look at the issues they're facing in the society, and work on it using AI. Because AI is a technology that can change everything and everything. Everyone is looking at AI to solve many of the issues. And as part of this partnership with IBM to train CBSE students was one of this. We have trained 5,000 students on AI across 100 schools, and by end of this year, it'll be 15,000 students. And the biggest learning from it has been that, we also started this as an experiment. And just by not knowing too much about AI, once you excite the students, they'll figure out a way, how to get the help. There's always the industry companies like CGI and IBM to help out. And of course, mentors you can find. Once they have an idea, they get excited about AI, they'll come up with the solutions. So that's been our biggest learning. And we also had the opportunity to represent India at our annual summit at the United Nations in New York. And some of the students present about the work. So it's an honor for us to present to you this. And I've been involved with AI curriculum design for the CBSE program. And I thought it's a great opportunity to at least excite some of you teachers who may not be from a computer science background to look at how AI can be taught to the students. So as a word of caution to everyone, I just want to say that do not be afraid. There's not going to be much technical in this session, but more about how can you look at AI and excite your students. So I see some of the teachers joined in from the English department, mathematics department, science department. Very welcome to you all. Happy to have you join us. In fact, we love it when teachers and students from other streams join in rather than just computer science, because AI is for everyone. It's not just limited to computers. So quickly, I'll just take you through this. This is the actual CBSE curriculum that was shared for grade 9, I believe. And if you look at it, there's introduction to AI, AI's project cycle, where you look at deeper into AI, then neural networks, then a bit of coding and co-curricular skills that they say. Essentially in all of this, you come up with a problem, and storytelling is a big element. You create a solution, but how do you tell a story about what's the problem that you're trying to solve? What's the solution? And narrating that well. So, that's also a big part of it. And I won't take you through each part of it, but overall this session will touch upon all these things and, how you can excite students, how can students relate to AI, how do you help students find a purpose using AI, the possibilities with AI, and solve a problem. So that's what we'll do in the next 1 hour. Let me check the chat again. I'm not sure, Ms. Ragadipti, because, I think it's visible. You can just check your screen settings. I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. All right. So I'll set it off with a quick video, a short video, and just take a look at this. And I hope it plays well for all of you. Again, depends on your connection setting as well.
Today, right now, you have more power at your fingertips than entire generations that came before you. Think about that. That's what technology really is. It's ability, it's adaptability, it's capability. But in the end, it's only a tool. What's a hammer without a person who swings it? It's not about what technology can do, it's about what you can do with it. You're the voice, and it's the microphone. When you're the artist, it's the paintbrush. We are living in the future we always dreamed of. We have mixed reality that changes how we see the world, and AI empowering us to change the world we see. You have more power at your fingertips than entire generations that came before you. So here's the question: what will you do with it?
So as you saw in the video, this just to set a context. Technology is great, right? So you have AI, you have Internet of Things, so many such things. It's great to have this technology, but just with technology, nothing can be done. We actually need to use it. It's all about harnessing the power, using the power of this technology to do something good. Otherwise, it's good to have a technology, but what's the use of it, right? And as you saw in the video, you're the painter, you're the creator. Technology is a tool, AI is a tool. Look at how can you use it, right?
Today,
that's what we will look at. So I'll start off with a question for all the teachers. You can unmute and talk, and after you answer, I would suggest you go to mute. So my question for you is, whatever you have heard of AI, we had a question in the questionnaire, do you have prior knowledge about AI? And about 70% of you said no, which is fantastic. That's absolutely fine. That's why the session is for. And if you have some knowledge of AI, we'll see if this helps you more. So question for all teachers, from whatever you've heard, what about AI is fascinating to you? Or in children's terms, what about AI is cool to you? You can unmute and answer. I'll love to hear a few answers.
So about the robotics.
Good morning.
Robotics, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
Good morning. This is Veena from Bhavan School. As AI is artificial intelligence, which is totally related to robotics.
Okay. Okay, so robotics, two answers, robotics. And any the answer?
Actually, AI can be used. Good morning, sir. AI can be used in the field of in every field we are using AI nowadays, in the science field, in medical field, in the business, in we have machine learning, everything. If we are accessing something, everything is based on AI only, not only robotics. And in the robotics also, a lot of varieties are there in the robotics. Like in the Mars and all, we are using different kinds of robotics. So everywhere we can see AI. So machine learning is also a part of AI that we use in our everyday life. To Google something or we will get the right side. I'll get an option based on the history. So all these are related to AI, I can see.
Hi, I'm Rupa. Good morning. I'm from the Cambridge International School.
Yes.
I would like to add on AI is like the brain and robotics is the body.
Well said. That's a good answer. In fact, a very good answer.
Yes. So both go hand in hand to make things work.
Yes. And how, like Ms. Deepa was saying, it's everywhere. AI is not just related to robotics alone, but it can affect every field. And yes.
Good morning, sir. This is actually a natural intelligence which is displayed by humans.
Okay.
See, the world is changing with artificial intelligence. I feel we should also be updated with it. So that's why I am fascinated with it.
Yeah, ma'am, I think you're on the right track. There's no essence of AI now.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we need to be updated. Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, ma'am.
This is Jayanti from Edify School. Yeah,
yes.
AI is fascinating because this is a new learning system which has evolved, and new learning system which will help our society, which will help our environment, and it will make our future more interesting, integrated with technology. So it's a new learning system.
Right. Okay. Okay. So thanks for sharing your answers. Very interesting answers, and some of you on chat as well. Thanks for sharing that. So let me take you. Heard from all of you what fascinates you about AI, but how about some of the cool, world leaders? What about AI fascinates them? Let's hear it from them itself.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if someday we got to the point where there were robots every place? They were running farms, they were running Apple, they were running Berkshire Hathaway, and all you had to do was one person could punch a button at the start of every morning, and all the goods and services that we're getting now would be turned out by robots.
It is seeping into our lives in all sorts of ways that we just don't notice. We're just getting better and better at it, and we're seeing that happen in every aspect of our lives, from medicine to transportation to how electricity is distributed. And it promises to create a vastly more productive and efficient economy. And if properly harnessed, can generate enormous prosperity for people, opportunity for people, can cure diseases that we haven't seen before, can make us safer because it eliminates inherent human error in a lot of work.
Artificial intelligence is going to be extremely helpful, and the risk that it gets super smart, that's way out in the future and probably worth talking about. But now what we're seeing is that for the first time, computers can see as well as humans. That's pretty incredible.
So that was what some of the world leaders thought about AI, and very fascinating. The future can be completely driven by AI, and it can make us safer, it can make us smarter, help us, do something better. So why is AI important? And we're talking about it so much right now. AI has been a concept, that's been from the 1950s. AI as a term was developed, and it's a good movie called Imitation Game, in which the whole idea of AI comes in. There's this machine called Enigma, which was used to break the code that the Germans sent during World War II, and the British came up with this device which was artificially intelligent that can break this code, right? So that's still, from then AI has been there, but it's been not made so much of progress. Now in the last few years, thanks to all the other technology, AI has grown a lot. Now, if you look at the different industrial revolutions, the first industrial revolution was driven by steam. We had the train, electric steam engines that came in, that revolutionized transport. Then we had a second industrial revolution where probably one of the most important inventions of man, electricity, was formed. Powered industries, powered devices, everything came in there. Then third industrial revolution, computing devices. You had the internet, then came the different apps, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. Communication became easier, travel became easier, smartwatches, everything. And now after electricity, probably the second biggest invention of man is artificial intelligence, because this is something completely different from all the other industrial revolutions. Now, if you look at the previous revolutions and now, the difference is that all the other revolutions, it was based on a particular invention, a product. You create something, you manufacture, design, you manufacture, and ship it across to the people, the consumers. Now, artificial intelligence, most of it is software, and it's dependent on intelligence of machines. So any update that is there, you can quickly make a change, and there's no complete life cycle is not there. You quickly develop the product, make a change, and in a few hours, it's in your hands. So it's very fast, and it's all connected on, it's dependent on data, and it's on the internet. That is why artificial intelligence is very different and comparative to the other industrial revolutions, right? Now, one thing we humans always take pride in is that we are very good with creative tasks. No animal, no human no machine can replace humans in creative tasks. But, we may not be that right. Now, take a look at this video from World Economic Forum, which tells that, when AI might do some of the creative tasks that we humans are good at. So like you saw, in the near future itself, AI will do a lot of things that we are good at. The other day, I was just reading an article, complete article written by AI, and it was as good as how humans write it. So it does seem surprising, shocking, and at the same time, sometimes, scary how the future will look like. But, we still have a long way to go from when AI can reach these fields, right? And now, like some of you talked about robotics and automation. Now imagine if AI was there in our house, completely, and there are some smart homes like this, which is completely powered by AI. Take a look at how, interesting life would be. And this is the house of somebody you might all have seen, the founder of Facebook. And take a look at this.
Good morning, Jarvis.
Good morning, Mark. It's Saturday, so you only have 5 meetings. Room temperature is set to a cool 68 degrees.
Earlier this year, I started building a simple AI to help run our home. I talked to Jarvis using this app I built. It uses artificial intelligence to understand me and figure out what to do.
Max woke up a few minutes ago. I'm entertaining her.
All right, let's go check on her.
Good morning, Max. Let's practice our Mandarin.
Jarvis, your Mandarin is so soothing. Jarvis also helps with getting ready. Sure.
Fire in the hole.
Hell yeah. Jarvis knows when to make me breakfast.
Your toast is ready.
All right. It's time for my call with Scrap. Can you get him on the video line?
Setting up the DC room now. Remember to check on the AI guidance system for Aquila.
One of the best things about Jarvis is it can recognize people at the gate, let them in automatically, and then just tell me about it.
Mark, your parents are coming in.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
It's Jarvis.
And Jarvis can play all of our favorite music. Hey, play us some good Nickelback songs.
I'm sorry, Mark. I'm afraid I can't do that. There are no good Nickelback songs.
Good. That was actually a test. songs that our whole family likes.
I request everyone else to be muted, please. It's causing some disturbance. Just trying to mute 1 second.
What? I'm a dad now. This is what I listen to. Jarvis also likes to join our family for playtime. Who should we tickle next?
I think we should tickle Max.
I'm also experimenting with other voices.
Stop her! She's getting away! Do it now!
And if I don't want to talk, I can just text Jarvis through a messenger bot that I built.
Mark, I'm trying to read in here.
Yeah, my bad. So this has been pretty fun, but I need some more ideas for Jarvis, so leave them in the comments and I'll try to build some of them. All right, movie time, Jarvis.
You got it, Mark.
First, I need to teach you to make me some more pop.
So like you saw in this video, again, a completely AI-powered house, and how, lazy a life would be and how convenient at the same time, right? Just moving ahead. Sorry, yeah. So human intelligence, when you look at a couple of things that, makes HI or human intelligence very different. Gathering information, we can store information that we come across, analyze it when needed, retrieve it whenever at later point after a few years, retrieve our memory, right? Make decisions based on this information, and finally take action. So this is something, which is very unique to human intelligence and that we pride on. But now compared to this, what is AI? Now let's take a look at what is AI, right? So I'll quickly put across the questions to all the teachers. Maybe a few of you can answer. What do you think is AI according to you?
AI is making a machine intelligent.
Making a machine intelligent.
Maybe any kind of thing which we can make it intelligent. That's
okay. That's a sweet answer. Okay.
Excuse me. Artificial intelligence means the machine actually learns what is our daily aspects, what we actually search for, and tries to give us the solutions for the same by understanding our preferences.
Right. Okay.
It's a machine. It will do hunting like humans.
Okay. Right. Okay.
It's a code. It's a statement given to the machine.
Okay. It's a code to the machine. Okay.
It is a game changer to the way we live and work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a game changer. Yes. Couple of answers in the chat as well. Intelligence made artificially, rightly said. Artificial is man-made, not natural. So it's artificial. Yes. Okay. So thanks for the answers. I'll give you a very simple definition of what AI is. And if anybody asks you what is AI, you can simply answer and easy to understand. So artificial intelligence is, in a very simple form, it's the ability of machines to understand, think, and learn in a very similar way to human beings, thereby allowing it to make predictions and decisions. So now the key parts here is understand, think, and learn. This is something very unique to humans. And now we are giving machines this ability to understand, think, and learn like humans. And most importantly, after you learn, understand, think, and learn, the machine should be able to make predictions and decisions. That is again very unique to human beings. Animals also can see everything, but not many animals can take action based on exactly what they see and or make a decision, right? Or to make a prediction. So that's what artificial intelligence is different, because it can be like human, but at the same time predict based on all this data. What happens is we as human beings, some things are easy for us, but there's only so much we can remember. Tons and tons of data, we will not be able to process it and take out the information, what to do, what prediction to make later, for which we need some a kind of machine that can store this and quickly based on a code work on this. So that is what, in a very simple way, artificial intelligence is. Now, if I have to show you a quick animated video to explain this better, take a look at this. Sorry.
Every day, a large portion of the population is at the mercy of a rising technology, yet few actually understand what it is. Artificial intelligence. You know, HAL 9000 and Marvin the Paranoid Android. Thanks to books and movies, each generation has formed its own fantasy of a world ruled, or at least served, by robots. We've been conditioned to expect flying cars that steer clear of traffic and robotic maids whipping up our weekday dinner. But if the age of AI is here, why don't our lives look more like the Jetsons? Well, for starters, that's a cartoon. And really, if you've ever browsed Netflix movie suggestions or told Alexa to order a pizza, you're probably interacting with artificial intelligence more than you realize. And that's kind of the point. AI is designed so you don't realize there's a computer calling the shots. But that also makes understanding what AI is and what it's not a little complicated. In basic terms, AI is a broad area of computer science that makes machines seem like they have human intelligence. So it's not only programming a computer to drive a car by obeying traffic signals, but it's when that program also learns to exhibit signs of human-like road rage.
So like explain the video, it seems complex, but AI is nothing but a machine having artificial intelligence and, being able to showcase the same behavior as human beings. So like you saw in the end, it's not about teaching a car to drive, but showing the similar behavior as human beings like road rage. But of course, when we design, we don't want the computer to behave in a similar manner. But that's what AI is. And if you look at around us, in our day-to-day life, AI is all around us. Sometimes we may not even realize. For example, in our Siri on Apple iPhones, Siri, the voice assistant, or Alexa, Amazon's Alexa, or even, Google voice search, everything is on AI. And then e-shopping sites, every e-commerce sites that we look at, Amazon, Flipkart, eBay, all of this use AI as such so that, they understand a preference and tell us every time we go on a site says, recommended products. So that's based on shopping pattern. And again, artificial intelligence behind it. The reason why Alexa and Siri is able to recognize our voice in a language that we say is again because of artificial intelligence. Uber, Ola, all of them use artificial intelligence to look at where maximum density of rides are. So accordingly allocate rides, and also suggest to us what time of the day is good to travel. You get notifications, right? Social media, Facebook, Instagram, friends to follow, what pages to follow. All these recommendations are based on AI again. If you use, let's say, Netflix, it tells you the different movies you might be interested in. Again, AI. GPS, Google Maps, nothing better than that to show AI. Lot of factors to be taken into consideration in that app, and then finally tells you what's a least time taking a path from point A to point B and which route to choose. Again, completely on artificial intelligence. So AI is all around us. Some of us know it, some of us don't. But why do we need AI exactly? We have all this technology, but why AI is needed? It's basically to do tasks that humans want to avoid because there are so many risks involved. So we could use AI to do many tasks which are dangerous for humans, to do things that require more power, to make things that need to be faster and accurate. At the end of all this, what we can look at is AI will help improve human efficiency and help us do our tasks better, rather than looking at AI taking away our jobs. I think the whole idea is we look at AI as a technology that can complement what we're doing, or sometimes, do the tasks for us such that we can do something that we really want to do. Maybe follow a passion, do something better, or, not do the day-to-day daily tasks of, creating an Excel sheet or something like that, which AI can do, and we can use that time to do something better, right? To be more productive, get better results. So that's where AI comes in and where AI can be used. So this is a simple activity. We won't do this now, but as teachers, to get your students started, you can give them a simple activity. My personal assistant. If AI was a personal assistant for them, you can ask them to do a couple of tasks they would want it to do, and to do those tasks, what abilities the machine should have to do it. And we did this activity a lot of times with students, and it's incredible the amount of imagination they have and the ideas they come up with. Forget about knowing anything about AI. You just explain to them what AI is. They get an idea, they'll come up with brilliant answers. And this is something you can try out in your class. I'm just checking the chat as well. Okay. All right. So this is again, AI in medical field. How can AI be used in a medical field? Some of the innovations.
Artificial intelligence has some dangerous connotations, right? So I like to reframe it not as AI, but IA, intelligence augmentation. And I think we're going to see IA infuse all elements of our life. It's going to infuse everything from a physician standpoint about how I do a smarter workup and diagnosis. And when I figure out a condition you might have, I'll be able to do a much smarter, more cost-effective, and more timely therapy, given how many mistakes we have, how many misdiagnoses we do, how big a problem medical mistakes are. I think AI or IA can play a really impactful role. It'll be something you have embedded in all your smart devices that will help track your health and give you empowerment as a consumer and a patient to take care of your own health and that of your family. And it's already starting to happen with Watson having gone to medical school. We can access the API for Watson with our mobile devices. They're partnering with the Apples of the world and the Medtronics. And I think it really has the opportunity to shift healthcare from the practice of medicine to the real science of medicine. So robotic surgery, even remotely, isn't science fiction. Companies like Intuitive Surgical have had advanced surgical robots for over a decade. They require often the surgeon to be there in the booth doing the procedure. It's even been demonstrated that that can happen across the planet. The real opportunity is we kind of fuse AI, imaging, sensors, is in some cases for some of these robotics to become semi-autonomous, to de-skill advanced surgery so that in a remote village with the right robotics, maybe a local country doctor can facilitate and enable more of a complex surgery that can never happen based on where the patient may be, whether it's on space station or Mars or in remote India, for example. So robotics blended with AI, blended with analytics and smart imagination, I think can really transform healthcare.
Again, medical field, how AI can transform it. Doctor sitting in, let's say America, can do an operation for a patient in a remote village in India. The robot, he does not have to control it. It just needs to feed the data, and the AI machine can do the operation, can do the stitching, all of that. Not completely maybe, but most of it. That's the power of AI. And again, there's this misconception that robotics and AI are the same. It's not. So like what ma'am mentioned, AI is the brain and robotics is the body. Kind of. Robotics can be even without AI, but artificially intelligent robots are much more complex, and they are able to take better decisions and perform better than normal robots that we have. Now again, let's look at this. A couple of examples here of young people working on AI. So this is a teenager called Pratik. So Google had this challenge, I think an AI challenge a couple of years back. So he had somebody who had an issue with kidney donation, I think. So, and that person was not able to get it. So he looked at the problem. The problem here was that there's no structured way in which you understand where you stand in the list of for getting a donation of an organ, or what your ranking is and how to get that. So there are two issues here. One was transparency and one was a structured process. So he took that as an issue and came up with this artificially intelligent app powered by AI, where you can find out if you can donate a particular organ in your body and stay aware about different organ donations and how to keep your body healthy. Then whoever is signing up on the app, you get it's like an automated process. If there are 10 people waiting for a donation, automatically as the donations are done, organ donors come in, it updates your rank, where your rank is and how much percentage matches there with the donor, etc. And then next, it's transparent and authenticity is maintained such that, it validates who is the donor and then connects you to the person who requires the organ, right? So he came up with a very interesting, intelligent app. You can also, Google this and see, you get to know more. Organ Secure per Pratik. Then this is an interesting one from Bangalore itself. Two students from NPS, one of the NPS schools. So they're brothers and they're in the same school. And the younger brother had this issue with the eye. He had a rare eye issue. So they learned a bit of AI and then took help from experts and came up with an interesting solution to help this younger brother overcome this issue. And it's a widely adopted technology solution using AI across India now. Now take a look at this.
As a child, I used to have trouble while walking down the stairs. When somebody asked me to write, I wouldn't be very comfortable. Even while playing a game like table tennis, I would struggle to return many of the shots. Though most doctors simply prescribe glasses, my mother wasn't convinced, and she decided that I must get my eyes tested by a pediatric ophthalmologist. He then diagnosed me with a condition known as lazy eye or amblyopia. I was 4 years old at the time.
My brother's condition gets overlooked even by trained doctors, and it must be detected before the age of 8 or else the affected eye may never heal. But if detected early, the condition can be treated really easily. All you need to do is patch your dominant eye and work on a couple of puzzles for a few hours every day.
My recovery was remarkable. Within a span of 9 months, my visual acuity in my left eye jumped from 55% to 98%. Like with many other disorders, early detection is key.
But not everyone is this lucky. All over the world, more than 100 million children are suffering from amblyopia, with more than 16 million cases in India alone. Currently, these cases can only be detected by a trained ophthalmologist with expensive devices, making effective detection nearly impossible. And that's why we developed Kanna.
Kanna makes detection simple, fast, and accessible.
All you need to do is click a photo, upload it to our website, and get your results. Using our patent-pending image processing and machine learning algorithms, we can calculate your risk of amblyopia. It's that simple.
After rigorous testing, we've found that our algorithm is exceptionally accurate in measuring the risk of amblyopia. Our pilot at the Shankara Eye Hospital with Dr. Kaushik Murali and his team was a huge success.
In a large country like India, there is a challenge in terms of our ability to predict children at risk for amblyopia. Technology today has a very large play in healthcare. Artificial intelligence has been used in other eye conditions like diabetic retinopathy or glaucoma to predict this condition. It has been a pleasure to work with Viswesh and Vrishab in developing this artificial intelligence based tool called Kanna. We've done a pre-pilot, we worked on, ironed out some of the problems that we found as a part of the pre-pilot, and today we believe that we have a reasonably decent solution that will help us in preventing a number of children across our country being needlessly blind from amblyopia.
We are undertaking a study to clinically validate Kanna with more data. Plans are already in the works to incorporate Kanna into rural eye camps where access to eye care is a challenge.
This way, thousands, potentially millions of children can be diagnosed early and lead better lives.
So again, like you saw, two youngsters, two teenagers who I'm pretty sure do not have so much information or knowledge about AI, but the problem at hand. They went and researched how can they solve the problem and a little bit of understanding of AI, some videos they might have seen, and they came up with this idea and they got the help and support, and now it's being implemented at Shankara Eye Hospital as well. Again, the power of how you can excite a student and activate them to come up with a brilliant solution. Now there's of course a lot of questions, debate about AI will take away a lot of jobs, but at the same time, this interesting study by global organization Gartner estimates that almost 1.8 million jobs will be eliminated because of AI. But at the same time, almost 2 million new jobs will be created. And this is in the next 5 years by 2025. Right? So just like how when the electricity, the industrial revolution, second industrial revolution, electricity came in, a lot of these agricultural land was taken away and a lot of farmers lost their jobs, but at the same time a lot of new jobs were created in these industries and they were able to reskill and get there. So I think we're facing a similar thing with AI, and only time will tell how we adapt to it. Now just take a look at some of these new AI powered job titles. I had not heard of any of these, and I'm sure many of you would not even have thought about in your wildest dreams. These are the kind of jobs that we need to prepare our students for. Which is why it's important they know what AI is, if not very deep, at least know what AI is and do try their hands on it. Data detective, digital trailer, there's a chief trust officer, there's fitness commitment counselor. I mean, these are the jobs that is gonna come in. It's not just the general a manager role or a tech lead or a teacher role. These are the kind of jobs that is there coming in the future. So very complex, very high profile jobs, and we definitely need to excite and encourage our students to look at technology and AI. Now, if you look at it, our world is of course facing a lot of issues, and I'm sure many of you would have heard about this, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. These are 17 goals that the UN came up with 5 years back, and it's been 5 years now. And by 2020, if achieved, it makes the world a better place. 17 goals, different goals targeting different areas and issues that we're facing, like poverty, there is education, gender equality, climate change, life on land, peace, etc. Now AI can be the solution for almost all of them, and I think there's a big scope for all our schools and students to look at different issues similar to these existing in our communities and solve them using AI. And that was actually the idea behind even the program we did with CBSE, where we're saying, we're not going to teach you everything about AI. We'll do a similar 3 to 5 hour workshop on AI. You will understand what AI is, and then come up with the issue that you want to solve and come up with the solution for it. And incredible results came out of it. They all looked at different issues like, helping the blind to walk, healthcare issues that is there, then issues of women's safety that is there. And they looked at how can AI be used to make it more effective. And this is again an inspiring video which gives you an idea of how to look at issues and use AI for it.
We face extraordinary challenges in the 21st century. 9.5 billion people alive in 2050. We don't know how we will provide them clean water, sustainable energy, education.
There are serious problems with the environment. There are serious problems with bigotry. There are serious problems with poverty and starvation, and so far we've been unsuccessful in figuring out a way to fix them. I'm hoping that AI can adjust the various factors in a way that maybe can solve these problems.
The real opportunity for AI is how we can actually help the 7 billion people that could benefit from these technologies in a practical way.
While we can't say AI is general magic, it is giving us core tools to start putting in place systems that we know will help with key issues like hunger, famine, epidemics, overall health and well-being.
AI offers an extraordinary possibility of accelerating solutions in the time we have to solve the problems.
We are now applying artificial intelligence to the art of farming, a very old industry, also adopting the latest in technology. So through artificial intelligence, a farmer can now integrate massive sources of data, whether it's data from the combines, it's weather satellite data, it's data from the fields, taking all that data together and through an artificial intelligence solution actually making recommendations to the farmer on how he can increase the production of his land.
AI has enormous capacity and potential to solve problems that require an enormous amount of computing and pattern recognition that human beings struggle with.
The way drugs are going to be designed in the future, and again already starting to be, is by having models of the molecules and how they interact, for example, with, say, the virus proteins, and then doing a search to find the best drug for the best problem. I think this, for example, how we're going to cure cancer.
By 2020, you should be able to walk into your doctor's office. Your doctor should be able to sequence your entire genome, take that along with your medical imaging data, compare that with the world's data of genome sequences and medical imaging data. From that, determine the matches between your tumor and others, what the treatments were in those other cases, and the outcome, did the patient survive or not, and from that, devise for you your personalized treatment, and do that entire process in just one day. It's completely possible through artificial intelligence.
The UN Summit and its goals excite me, in particular with the idea of leveraging what I would call sleeping giants of data. We have accumulated so much data in the world, and with some refinement and some tagging, this data can become available and leveraged to address famine, to address human trafficking, to address vicious cycles of economic poverty.
If you make progress in AI, you make progress in all of these different fields at the same time. Right? So better machine learning algorithm, if I invent it tomorrow, it'll make for better medical diagnosis, it'll make for better self-driving cars, and who knows what else.
AI is potentially the most powerful technology that we've ever created, and it's going to create the next form of civilization. It's not happening in 10 years or 15 years, it's happening right now.
Some interesting ideas how AI can be used to solve problems, and of course one of them that they said in 2020 you can walk into a doctor and all that happens, but I think this was a video about 2 years old, so we still haven't reached that partly, but still some way to go. But as said in the end of the video, the change is happening right now, and AI can be the most powerful technology created ever that can form the next civilization, which is why we all need to be aware of AI. It does not matter from which field we are. A couple of examples.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, man. Go ahead, please.
How come, the current pandemic, AI was not used the way it could have been used, from predicting the pandemic, happening, what we could have taken precautions. Even now, the vaccines, we are struggling. They're saying, the lady was saying genome tapping and giving the results of cancer in 1 day. Why is it not happening with vaccines?
Right.
I have the answer for that.
I can I'll just try to answer that. So interesting question, and I think that's been a question that many people have been asking. Frankly, I think a year back, AI system had actually predicted a pandemic of this scale happening, but we being humans, the people who are controlling it never took that seriously, and nothing was done. So of course the warning was there, but nothing happened. But in terms of finding a vaccine, now this is where the importance of data comes in. Now, if AI can only be as effective as much data is provided to it. Now, for cancer or a tumor, it's comparatively easier because a lot of people have had this disease and have tons of data from years which has been fed in, and the AI looks through it and gives the best solution. Now, in terms of a vaccine, this is the COVID-19 is particularly a different and new kind of virus that's come in. And there's no much data to help it. Of course, we have the information about the common cold virus and the other virus, but not for this. And even now, to develop a vaccine, there is a lot of dependency on AI to help humans, come up with a vaccine. But of course, now that there are 6 vaccines under development, the testing is happening now. It's all about the testing, how it works on people. But that also an interesting question that also brings me to 2 different things here. There are 2 types of AI. One is the general AI that we call it, or advanced AI, strong AI it's called, and the other is weak AI or narrow AI. So general AI or strong AI is what you actually see in movies. All these robots, like in Transformers, Avengers, Terminator. The robots that are much more intelligent than human beings, super intelligent. That's general intelligence, strong AI. And that's something we have not reached yet. We are still, I would say, at least 10 or 15 years away from that, because that much data, that much, technology is still needed to build that. But in terms of narrow AI, everything that we interact with today is an example of narrow AI. Alexa is an example of narrow AI. Now, all these can do only one particular task it's been designed to. For example, Alexa can listen to your voice, do the action that you're telling it to, or give a search result, but probably not perform a surgery, right? So that it's because of that, most of the AI is narrow AI, and the AI that we see in fiction and movies, that is still some time away. We are reaching there, but it's still not that stage. Of course, there's quantum computing, and on the back end, the research side of many companies and universities, there is research happening, but publicly not available yet. So yeah, I would say data and early warning signs we kind of ignored, which is why we are in this unbelievable situation.
Sir, excuse me, sir,
yes.
just 1 second. Cancer cell detection is already, research is being conducted, according to me, and also speech recognition and generating summary. If we are having any topic or any,
yes.
According to that, we can generate one short summary. That also research is over. And fingerprint detection and image processing is also, most of the tools are available now.
Correct.
Most of the places it is implemented.
Yes, you're right, ma'am. So all these are available. Again, if you see, all these are small parts of AI. So
yes, correct.
A robot that you see like in the movie, which can do everything, is a mixture of all this together, which is why it's still not there. So fingerprint, voice recognition, all this there, but it can only do this one particular task. Now it's about when you bring all this together that works. Now, I mean, talking about health itself, thanks for sharing that, ma'am. Health itself, there's this new device that's coming up. It can detect early signs of diabetes just through your heart rate sensor, and with 85% accuracy. This was 1 year back. Now it might be much higher. And researchers have found that AI is better at diagnosing skin cancer compared to dermatologists. Now the reason for this is
blood cancer also, cancer cell detection is conducting as a research, and a part of research work it is doing in some universities.
Correct. The reason for these kind of diseases is that these are like kind of, I would call it the old diseases, which is there from years, and we as human beings took so much time. So all this data is there. Now for a computer AI system to look at how a skin cancer is or a blood cancer is, we have already mapped so much of it. It has to look at, let's say, 100,000 images or 1 million images, and then the next time onwards you can say, this is probably a better possibility of a skin cancer, and can detect better than human beings, because relying on data rather than just what we see through our eyes or through our knowledge.
Yes, it is nothing but the data should be more.
Exactly, yes.
To obtain better accuracy.
Correct. I'll also come to data, because AI has, like Manav mentioned in the beginning, AI is completely dependent on data.
Yes, correct,
yeah.
sir. Thank you.
Yeah. And a few more other examples. AI can be used for wildlife poaching is another example. A simple drone fit with a camera, which has computer vision. And I'll talk about what computer vision is. It goes around and rangers or forest officials do not have to go into the complete forest. You know, the drone will go around and look at people and look at animals and see if this is a potential poacher or not. You know, it can be threat to animal or not. And accordingly inform the authorities. And in this case, you know, rather than inform authorities, give the exact location where they are and where they're moving, and authorities can catch them. So that's another example of how AI is used. Then air quality monitoring. India and especially in the north, big issue during winters, air quality. Company called Brizo in India has come up with this air quality monitoring system using AI that understands the air you breathe. You know, it looks at live tracking of how the pollutants are right in your location. Is it high on a particular days, low on a particular days, and suggests what needs to be done, you know, according to the air quality. Again, helpful for us to understand what actions need to be taken. Again, in terms of water and ocean pollution, this is how, again, AI, some of the solutions in which AI can help.
Hi.
Yeah, sorry.
This is hi.
No, that's a couple of videos. If we have time, we'll look at it. So I'll also look at, you know, in the towards the end of it, and I'll also give an example of how you can try out some, you know, tools to teach students and some project ideas where you can get started on. If you have ATL labs or a normal, you know, physics lab, robotics lab, you can try these out. So I'll come to that towards the end. So I thought, you know, initially I'll just give you an overview of how AI is and show you around. So now, you know, humans and machines, when you look at it, quick question for you. A small, let's say a few-month-old baby, how does a baby understand the world? No example, you know, if a baby is looking at a red color car, how does it learn that it's a red color car? You can answer.
It's based on cognition and recognition.
Right, but you know, the first time a baby sees, like, how does a mother help it? What is the process? I'm sure many mothers are there among the teachers. Like when your baby,
we need to teach them. This is red, this is white, this is black. We need to teach them based on our perceptions. We are teaching them. So this is how the baby learn.
Perfect. Right.
Yes, sir. We are only making them to identify which color is this and what this object it is.
Correct. So when you say it the first time, does the baby understand the first time itself?
It's all observation, grasping. No. I mean, continuously, that is the continuous process that we have to keep them telling what it is.
Correct. Perfectly said. So, you know, the first time the baby sees, the mother will say this is a red car, but 100% the baby won't say red car the second time. You know, so it might, and sometimes it might just say, you know, looking at a blue color car, red car. So then the mother actually tells it this is a red color, blue color, white color, and then this is a car, and makes that connection. So it is a process of repeating it 100 times to the baby. And that is how human intelligence and human learning works. Same with artificial intelligence, there is machine learning. So here, instead of teaching it 100 times or 1,000 times, we need to give it that much amount of data. You know, maybe 100 images of what is red color, 100 images of what a car looks like, and then the machine will make the connection. So that is how machine learning happens. Same principle of cognition, understanding the first time, and recognition. Next time it sees us, recognizing it correctly. Exact same principle is what we have used in art.
Like a face recognition.
Yes, correct. So if you give 100 faces of, you know, yours, 101st time we'll be able to recognize correctly. And the reason it requires so much data is mainly because, you know, it has to see in different scenarios. It's not always like a clear photo of yours will be giving. It might be a black and white photo. It might be. So yeah, can I request everyone to please mute everyone? Sorry. Okay. And in simple terms, that is machine learning, a set of methods for helping a computer get the ability to learn. So giving a computer the capability to learn without actually coding and programming it completely. Computer systems, we code everything. All the apps work on coding, exact code for what every action is given. While in artificial intelligence and machine learning, you're giving the overall code and the structure, but you're not coding for every action that a user is doing. This is what the output should be. You're not coding that. That is what makes artificial intelligence different. So in machine learning, you're giving it so many examples that it learns by itself. Giving it the ability to learn. That's what's happening. And now let's do something hands-on. Just me. I'll come to the tools, ma'am. From 6th to 10th, I'll share a couple of tools, but I'll get you there. So we'll just try this hands-on with this particular tool called Teachable Machine. And I'll just ping this code also in the chat link. So you can try this out along with me right away. And this is something that you can give. In fact, you can give it to a 6-year-old as well to try the hands-on AI. Again, for a 6-year-old, we don't want to get into the complete concept of how AI works, but introduce them to fun games. So I have a couple of resources for you. In like another 10 minutes, I'll share with you. So this is a link. You can go to the link, and I'll just share my screen as well. 1 second. Here you go. And I'll share my screen. So when you go to this website, this is what comes up. Yeah, so this is what you see. You can try it out side by side with me if you're on a laptop. I think best works on a laptop. You can click Get Started. And you have 3 options, image project, audio project, post project. Audio and post you can try out at home. You will also have fun. Doesn't matter how old you are. And trust me, you'll have fun with this. I'll try the image one right now. And what I'll do is I'll try using my, let's do a experiment to differentiate between cats and dogs. Okay, so I'll give this cats and I'll give this as dogs for now. And I'll rename that. I'll just upload some photos. Now from my system, I have a few photos of cats with me. So let me upload, I have these many photos of cats. So I'll upload these photos of cats. And the second in my class is dogs. So now I'll upload all my photos of dogs here. And I'll also show you without these photos, how can you do with your camera itself. It is just to show you, I'll just show this first. So I have 2 classes, cats and dogs. Uploaded the photos. Now I click, this is the middle model which gets trained. So I click train. About 10-15 seconds it will take the system to train. Now this is machine by Google, machine learning, artificial intelligence software by Google. They have given all the coding at the back end for it to understand what needs to do, when upload images and train. Now what happens is I have not given any code. I'm only giving it images, and it's getting trained on what these images are, right? So this is cat. It says this is dog. Now what I'll do is or rather, my camera is on. So I'll quickly open my phone and I'll just Google, let's say cats, right? And I'll take a simple image of a cat and show it. And this image is not there in my images that I've uploaded. So if I show this here, sorry, yeah. Now see, it's like 100%, it's detecting it's a cat. Now if I try, let's say another image of cat. If I show this, yeah, my camera is kind of, shifting. It's not coming correctly. Let me just take a proper image. So if I show it, the percentage of how much it thinks it's a cat is very high. It's learned from the images that I've given it. Now, similarly, if I take a picture of a dog, let's say dogs, on Google search, and I'll just take a picture of a dog and show it. And there's again an image that I have not uploaded already. It's a different image. Now take a look at it. It's 100% sure it's a dog. Now same way, let's say another image of a dog. It's pretty sure it's a dog again, right? So it's a simple image recognition. Now it's an artificial intelligent machine. It's able to identify between a cat and dog. That's how it works. Now let me do another refresh of this. Let's try using the camera and do something live. And this is something probably you can do it right away if you don't have images. I'll just say hand up here, hand down, And maybe I'll just add one more class. This is phone. Okay, so I'll use my webcam now. I'll just click on record and just show my hand. My hand is up. So different images of hand. I'm moving my hand in different poses. You know, even a little bit of my finger is shown. About 129 images, right, of hand up. Now hand down, what I'll do is with my hand down, just my face is seen. So I'll just take a picture of this, me moving around in different ways. And that's recorded, 88 images. And now phone. So I'll just show my phone and I'll hold record. So it'll take images of my phone, it's seen. And now what I'll do is I've taken these three classes, hand up, hand down, and phone, and I'll train it now. If you're doing it side by side, great. Or else, you have the link, teachablemachine.withgoogle.com. Try it out, and you can give this as a first experiment to students. They'll be surprised to see, how does it recognize, in the end, and what is the understanding behind it is something that you can explain as well. So it's training the data set. So what I provided the input, this is my data. These photos are the data now. And the output is when I show it to an image, it recognizes. The recognition is the output or the prediction that the AI model makes. Training about 5 more seconds. Okay, so now it's up. Now my hand is down, right? So it's able to recognize pretty much certainly that my hand down. So it's like, accuracy is high. Now the moment I bring my hand up, and even a little bit of hand up, it's got that image. It's understanding hand up, fully up, it's hand up, 100% sure. Down, it's hand down. It's pretty clear because my face is anyway visible in the others. That's why it's not like 100% sure about hand down. Now phone, if I bring, let's take a look at this. Now phone, 100% again. My screen was on before, but now it's off. Now if I show this like this, it's pretty certain that it's a phone. It's able to recognize 100%. And again, if I show my screen on now, it's 100% sure again that's a phone. Again, now if you look, I had given 129 images of my hands up, 88 and 100 images of my hand down and phone. So again, depending on how much more data you give, you can try this. You can do a similar one later on with the images. You can train it to detect between different types of, let's say, fruits, different types of bottles, right? Is it a plastic or not? Similarly, you can try the pose and audio mode. You can help it to recognize different kinds of birds that is there. It can look at your face and recognize your emotion. All this is something you can really do. The question is, AI having any limitations? Ma'am, like any technology, AI definitely has limitations. As I said, we have not reached that stage where AI is super intelligent. It's again a technology, so it's all dependent on how we use AI and what we can do with AI. AI is just a technology; it's a tool. So, there are limitations, of course. What is the amount of data to be entered? The more data you enter, the more accurate it will be. The lesser the data, it's kind of the accuracy might be lesser. But these kind of things, which is simple identifying between different things, that is a lot easier. But if it's something to do with, let's say, self-driving car, you need large amount of data because it has to take so many important decisions. Is it a bystander? Is it a pedestrian walking? Is it a cyclist? What kind of road signals to understand? Which is why although in development, self-driving cars are taking much longer to get developed. I'll just give you a little bit more understanding of what machine learning is. Now, artificial intelligence is this big word, big term saying that this is artificial intelligence. So basically, in layman's terms, if I have to explain, this is a very difficult work to do and requires a lot of problem solving. What I'll do is I'll just ask the computer to solve it or machine to solve it for me. That is artificial intelligence. Now, machine learning is it's a difficult problem to understand, and I don't know how. I find it very difficult to program this computer to understand every step, coding every bit of it. What I'll do is I'll give it some structure and some good examples. Maybe the machine will learn from that and do by itself. So that is machine learning. So you have artificial intelligence. For it to function, you need machine learning. You need to give it structure and examples. And then inside that comes deep learning, which is very core, at the core of artificial intelligence, where you're saying that I don't know how to make this computer understand what I know. And I don't even know how to create a structure. Maybe it'll create its own structure and figure out even the data by itself. I'll only put a code saying that this is the structure, this is the data, you figure it out, do it. That is deep learning. So at the core you have deep learning, on which machine learning works, and artificial intelligence is dependent on how the machines learn. So that's like simple explanation of these three terms, which are very important in AI. Again, a few other terms you might have heard of. Maybe students might ask you important core terms of AI, like computer vision that you saw in a video before. Computer vision is nothing but giving a machine the ability to see like humans. So it's the sensor for the eye for a computer is basically the camera. It sees the camera, and from the camera, it should be able to understand this is a signboard, this is a fruit, this is a human being. So giving computers the ability to look at things, look at the surroundings, and understand, that is computer vision. Machine learning, I explained again. Neural networks is like how, human body, in biology, human body has lots of nerves and neurons inside. Artificial intelligence is also designed in such a way that all this data that is entered, it's like a neural network, different nerves, different nodes. The moment you enter a search field or a particular word is called, all these nerves gets activated, and what is important comes out. So just like a human body, this is also developed. Natural language processing is the ability of a machine to understand the language we talk. So as you all know, computers only understand binary language, zeros and ones, and we cannot talk that language. So giving machines the ability to understand our language, that is English, Hindi, Kannada, Tamil, Malayalam, or any language, that is natural language processing. So like Alexa and Siri will understand your language, convert it to its own machine language, and give you the result in your own language again, in a matter of milliseconds. That is AI for you. And cognitive computing is basically helping machines compute in a similar manner like the human brain. How we make decisions, how complex decisions are made, that power is given to the computer. And let me check the chat. Okay, chat, the question was what language is used for AI? Mainly it's Python. Python is used, and you can learn more about it, and I'll give you a couple of resources if you want to learn more in detail about AI. That's my last slide as well. So here, computer vision, I told you. Now take a look at how computer vision can be used. Again, simple experiments like these that students can work on. So identifying data is important to understand the difference between a plastic bottle and a shell, or jellyfish and a plastic bag in the ocean, right? So that is where all this data. Now you see different settings, so you cannot detect easily. The drone flying so much high, it can only see so much. From that, it has to make the decision if it's plastic or not. Right? And students can develop this kind of a model where it detects and it tells the authorities this much plastic is in one area, divert your cleanup efforts there. Simple solution, AI powered, not much human intervention required. Or in the ocean, come up with a solution similar to a drone where it goes underwater and looks and says there's a lot of plastic here, maybe this is a place you want to clean up. And plastic pollution is a big issue that we're all dealing with. Okay. Moving ahead, so I'll come to the data part. Now, data, if you all ask me, why is data important? I told you, to train a system. But at the same time, take a look at this. This is just 1 minute. In 2020, this year, every minute of the day, this much data is being generated on the internet. Quick look, there are Zoom, like us, there are about 200,000 people attending Zoom meetings every minute of the day. There are about close to 1.5 million video calls that people make every day. Then there are about, WhatsApp users share about 45 million messages per minute of the day. That's per minute, right? And then Instagram, there are about 347,000 stories uploaded on Instagram per minute. This is across the world, right? And again, let's look at something else. Let's say YouTube. About 500 hours of video is uploaded to YouTube every minute. Now, if you look at it, this is like large chunks of data. Even if you put on, a million people on it, each of them by the time they complete processing one bit of this data, in the very next minute, this much amount of data is still created. So that is what is this concept called big data. Big data is nothing but this large chunks of data, but which also exponentially grows with time. So 1 minute you have 100 hours of data. In the second minute, now you have 200 hours of data. Third minute, 300 hours of data, exponentially growing data. And for that to process this, and all this data is important because the companies get to understand the user pattern, what data is being shared to ensure security of the shared messages, etc. For this, humanly, it's not possible, frankly. So you need, AI systems that can process this, for which very complex artificial intelligence systems are needed. And also, when we have so much of data, if you put it on an Excel sheet, nobody will understand, right? We also need to depict and share this data in a very interesting manner. So that's where data visualization comes in. This is an example of a data visualization racing bar graph, which has been popular recently. Many of you might have seen. This is an example of how COVID confirmed cases till, I think, April. Very easy to understand. You can see which country, how many cases going, which country is coming up. Compared to putting this on an Excel sheet, imagine, right? In a table form, you will take so much time to even get to the base of, one point. Now, this is very visually nicely represented. You can also give students tasks of finding data, or, you can find online data that you can easily get, and give students to show it on a graph in a different manner. Come up with creativity, show using smileys, show using different ways how you can represent this data. This is a great way for you to introduce students to data right from an early age, maybe grade 6 itself. And you will find online resources where you can get these simple activities to work on data. I mean, we did an example with our students where we are teaching them parallel processing. So all these computers require a lot of processing power. Parallelly, it has to process so much data, big data. So we said, create a parallel processing machine. Simple, nothing but you have 3 different types of balls, one big ball, smaller ball, and a very small marble kind of ball. There are 3 layers, 3 layers. You need to filter the balls. The first one stop the big ball, the second one the next level of ball, and third one the last level of ball. How can you do that? And the students came with interesting ideas. They took rice and green peas as one and used the filter to filter it out. And each one had a different filter. Similarly, they created like a cardboard and different boards, and big balls stop on top, bigger holes. Second one has slightly smaller holes, and third one has like no holes at all. So filtering happened. These kind of activities you can give them. Another important part that is there in the curriculum as well is ethics in AI. So AI, as I said, like a baby, we are developing it. So it's important that it also understands the values, rules, etc. Otherwise, it can be dangerous. Take this example here. And this is again a scenario, you can find these kind of scenarios online where you give to the students so they can make those ethical decisions. Now, in this case, imagine you're driving a car, or rather an autonomous car, self-driving car, and the brake of the car is gone. Only 2 possibilities. Possibility A, you go straight and hit a family crossing the road. Or possibility B, your family is in the car, it crashes, it saves the people crossing the road and kills your family. What would you choose? Right? For different people, it's a different answer. There's no right or wrong answer. It depends on our values. So any AI system that is being developed has to be in sync with the values of that community or the people for which it's developed. So which is why ethics is very important. And there was an example in a couple of years back. Google faced a lot of issues online. They had a mistake in their search algorithm, and it wrongly identified people with black skin as gorillas. And it's a big racial issue, big disrespect for them, right? It was a big issue, and then they promised and they rectified it. Again, because of not much data being trained properly. This also issue happens because when we train it with, like in this example of good images of good bananas, it'll identify it's a banana, right? But if you show it this kind of an image, which is slightly, brownish banana, or a banana that is in between so many fruits, it may not be able to identify it. So that is again the issue. So when we're training it, it's very important we give so much data that can understand from any scenario what it is, right? Can identify rightly. So that is very important. That's part of ethics of AI. Okay, coming to helping you out for teachers, what are the different problems that students can solve using AI, and what AI ideas can you give, right? So students can work on problems using AI where there are so many variables and parameters and unknown quantities. For example, weather models. It can also be, disease detection models where a lot of variables here like atmospheric pressure, temperature, humidity, solar radiation, etc. Based on this, it has to make a prediction of the weather. So a lot of variables here. Traffic flow. Now, traffic flow in Google Maps might seem simple, but it has to look at the time of the day, number of vehicles on road, average traffic speed, other than diversions. Based on that, give you the right decisions and instantly. Modern drug discovery. Again, a lot of factors: chemical library, blood types, binding affinity, protein structures, etc. Which is why even with coming up for a vaccine, COVID, it's not easy. And right now, at least with the help of AI and technology, we're reaching somewhere, but it's still a long process that it takes. That's again somewhere, in future AI can help. Let me do something very interesting now to help you. You might think AI is very complex, I don't get it, but I'll tell you in very simple form what is the core behind, many of the things that AI works on. right? So let's take a simple graph, XY graph. You have the x-axis, y-axis, and you have 2 points, right? Point A, point B. To find the distance between 2 points, what do we usually do? I mean, teachers, you can tell me, what's the best way to find a distance between 2 points?
Formula. We'll use distance formula and find.
Correct, distance formula.
Mathematically.
Yeah, and of course, there's another, if it becomes a triangle, then what's the other formula then?
Pythagoras theorem will be used.
Perfect, perfect. So Pythagoras theorem is what you use for a distance, finding a location, right? So now imagine this in a different scenario where there's a XYZ axis. Let me just take a look at the chat as well. Yeah, okay, correct. So if you look at the this one, there's a color axis, a size axis, XY axis, and there's a Z axis, the 3-dimensional axis, which is the taste, sweet and sour taste. So it's a 3-dimensional axis. And now if I have to put fruits onto this, cherry, right? Cherry is red in color, it's small in size, it's kind of sweet in taste. Then there's apple, red in color like cherry, bigger in size, probably kind of sweetish in taste. Guava, which is more like sour in taste a little bit, and green in color, same size as apple. Mango, yellow color, again sweet. Pineapple, yellow color, bigger than mangoes, sweet in taste. Now if you map all this on this XYZ axis, it's all a distance. You can easily find out the distance. And based on this distance, using Pythagoras theorem, you can actually group them all together. That's where the similarity is. And to break it simply for you, Amazon and Netflix recommendations work on this simple principle of Pythagoras theorem and nothing more. Euclidean distance formula and Pythagoras theorem is what it works on. So in case of Netflix, it might be the 3 axes might be your age group, the favorite kind of movies you like, and maybe your favorite actors. So based on these things, they'll group the things. And if you have seen a movie which is by Shah Rukh Khan and having romance as the category, so the next time you go on Netflix, it'll show you so many movies which has Shah Rukh as the hero or from the romance category as the movies that you might like. And more often than not, it's kind of the right recommendation, simply based on grouping things based on Pythagoras theorem. So if you're thinking it's complex, it's not. It's simple as that.
Point.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. And again, all depends on data. That's why data is called the data is the new oil. And data you give it, the more better the Pythagoras theorem gets at functioning and giving these results. Now, a couple of examples that you can try out in labs, and some of these you might already be doing these experiments. You can add AI to it. Facial recognition using your Raspberry Pi and Pi camera can be done in your labs. You can ask students to do an attendance system where teacher does not have to call out. There's a camera there. You feed all the photos of different students, and each time somebody walks in, camera looks and says attendance marked. Right? That's an experiment you can give students to work on. It can be used for identifying missing persons again. And you might find the code and how to do it on Google if you search for it. A garden monitor where you can ask students to come with a system that looks at humidity, pressure, barometer, etc. Pressure, etc. using a sensor device. And based on the values, it automatically turns on the water to be put, or it automatically tells you, it's too hot outside, take the plant inside. Some kind of a decision that way. That could be made. Lake turbidity monitoring, Bangalore at least is very popular for its unpopular Bellandur Lake and other lakes with so much of dirt and impurities in it. A simple prototype where you're putting dirt into water and the sensor identifies and cleans the area with the impurity in it. That could be another project idea that you can work on. Wildfire, again, you see California wildfires, Australian bushfires, big issue. Similar concept is only for in the north, Haryana, Delhi, we have these fires from the burning of husk in winter. So you could come up with a project idea where you're detecting the smoke in the atmosphere using a smoke sensor as well as a computer vision camera, and give feedback to people that do not step out. It's so much of pollution now, or this is burning there. Maybe the authorities can go and take action there. Couple of ideas there, and this is a brilliant example for especially young students to start and get excited on AI. Experiments.withgoogle.com. You have a number of fun games similar to the teachable machine we did. Other things on phone itself you can do. There's a fun emoji game where it shows the emoji. You have to go and take a photo of it, and they'll understand AI through it. I'll ping this again in the chat for you can try it out. It's an excellent tool to try. To know more about AI, you can go to Coursera, coursera.org, and just search for artificial intelligence. You'll find a number of courses, from IBM, from top universities you can try out. And for example, Introduction to AI, IBM Applied AI, these are simple courses. You can try your hands on. These are beginner level. You'll get a better understanding of AI without learning much coding. That's the best part. Without learning much coding. If you have an idea how to solve it, coding obviously you can learn. Somebody can obviously help you. So you can try these out. And finally, I just want to share that we have we are working with different CBSE schools. We are also thinking of starting a couple of climate action clubs in different schools. Maybe we'll talk with Manila ma'am after this. Give the opportunity to some of your schools where the students will get to take part in climate action and use AI to solve climate issues. And then we'll help them. How do you design a story and give them different tools they can work on? And we're also looking at some schools and teachers also being awarded for the great work they're doing towards climate action, because everyone is talking about climate action and our world is suffering because of that, especially because of COVID. We have neglected that now, but we have to take care of that as well. How can we use tech and AI for that? And we'll have a number of activities, drawing competition challenges, etc., to make students aware about climate issues and take action. And we'll see, if we can provide this to you sometime in the near future. So that's pretty much it from my session today. Yeah, we'll try to get you involved in activating 100,000 climate action warriors. That's our aim in the next 6 months. So we'll see how we can work together. So thank you so much. That was my session, and I'll just ping you this link in the group where 1 second, experiments with Google. Just give me a moment. Yeah, I think that in the group, and yeah, that's pretty much what I had to cover in terms of overview of the session. And this is just exciting you and looking at the CBSE 9th grade curriculum, what you can do. Of course, when you look at the textbook and the teacher guide, you will know in depth, but it's pretty much on the same lines. And I would say to know more about AI, it's best that you spend time on internet, on YouTube. There are a lot of interesting videos and different ways to make you understand. So yeah, looking forward to many more projects and interesting ways in which you can excite your students and make learning AI fun for them. Any questions? I'm happy to take any questions before we have the session, a small talk by Sudhir. Any questions? You can unmute and ask.
Sir, could you please elaborate deep learning?
Well, deep learning, ma'am, it's for me to elaborate, it's a little complicated. But when I say deep learning, it's a way of machine learning in which basically you're saying you're not even providing any. You're only providing it some data, right? You're giving it some data saying that this is what, let's say, an apple looks like. You're not giving it any particular coding. You're not giving it any examples. For example, after giving apples as the data, you might ask the system, come up with 10 recipes for apple. And that's a simple one, but something very complex about apple, right? Now the system will figure out what to do. It'll analyze all this, everything it knows about apple. It'll look at apple, look at recipes, everything it knows, and comes up with the best recipe which you will love. Not just a normal recipe, but a recipe that you will love based on your user pattern, what kind of dishes you like, etc. So now for that, just simple machine learning does not work. It has to be very complex deep learning, and the algorithm has to be such. So that is what is deep learning. But to understand much better, I would say, you look at an interesting video maybe on YouTube.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome, ma'am. Lot of thank you.
So this is
yeah.
Good afternoon,
Yes,
sir. So this is Gayatri speaking.
Yes.
Sir, I think I don't know how apt is my question to this session, but I'm a biology teacher. But always when I think of computers or all these AI, or not specifically AI, only thing that comes to my mind is how to manage this e-waste.
Okay. Right.
So I think little bit focus on that.
Okay, sure, ma'am. So, I mean, different scenarios, right? So, we had a few students who worked on e-waste as well. So, I would say, as a biology teacher or English teacher or any other subject, I would say, forget the whole fact that AI is computer science. Just think of it from like how you might use a different app for something, a tool. Think of AI as a tool, a technology, right? Now, think your issue is now e-waste. Now, what are the different issues related to e-waste? Why is it a big problem? Think of that and then see, what are the different ideas you can come up with. And now once you come up with these ideas, you can think of how can you integrate AI such that the result or solution is 10 times better. Now it can be a simple solution where, a smart dustbin, where a computer vision camera is there. Somebody just goes and puts the waste into the dustbin. And depending on the type of waste, e-waste, plastic or organic waste, there are 3 bins inside that. It automatically sorts in. So all the from a customer perspective or a user perspective, you're putting in the dustbin, the waste, and at the back end, AI is working and it detects what kind of waste and puts into different kinds of dustbin. So it's easy to segregate. That's just an example again. I mean, like, ma'am, the more you look at it, you'll get an idea. But frankly, first thing, get the fear or fear away that it's a computer subject. It'll be easier for you, trust me.
Yeah, right.
And just to give you an example, me and Manav personally, though we have worked at Intel, Accenture, tech companies, both of us are not fans of coding. I hate coding. I don't know how I spent 4 years in Accenture. I mean, it was good, but at the same time, I hated coding. And I didn't know much about AI, and I've learned about AI in the last 2 years, frankly, based on that. So I can guarantee you that you don't have to know much about computers, just that interest.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
One thing, Saffron, can I add?
Sure.
Ma'am, there is a project that we are mentoring on e-waste, which a student is doing. And one of the biggest challenge he's having is to connect the e-waste to where it can be disposed of and who's going to buy it. So I think the bigger problem today, which can, you can probably think about from a technology perspective, is what happens after you've collected the waste? Which are the vendors who can buy it, where it can be disposed of, who are the people who are interested? And then there is a huge issue on battery disposal. No one knows today where to dispose of batteries, but can you use technology to create a marketplace where all this information is known? So there's a student that we are mentoring who's just trying to solve this problem out, because many people, they are aware of e-waste, but they don't know what to do with it. And what category of e-waste belongs to which category, kind of a stuff. So it's an interesting project that, ma'am, you can take with your students.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, and I was muted. And any questions you can obviously share with us over a feedback form. We'll definitely share the recording of the session so you can, view that later. And yes, ma'am. Ma'am, you had something, Manla, ma'am?
Safin, sir, can I ask a question, sir?
Yes, please go ahead, ma'am.
Sir, I'm a social science teacher. To tell you frankly, I don't know ABCD of technology. Or online classes, we have just started to learn and then we are doing the classes. Where do I begin for including AI, sir?
Begin for including AI, I mean, again, so some of the examples that you saw, how AI can be used. I mean, social science, again, when you see all this plastic pollution and the different issues we are facing comes under that as well, right?
Yes.
And even the SDGs. So it's all social. So now if you can look at different issues that is existing and what are the issues that especially the students want to address in their community, you can ask them to look at that. And once they come up with a problem, then give them these examples of this is what, this kid did, or this is what the different, this company did. Based on that, I'm sure they'll come up with an idea, and based on the idea, we can definitely mentor them.
And I can answer that, ma'am. In fact, social science is a big topic that we are sort of partner of, and 1M1B, we have partnered with the United Nations. So United Nations wants us to create solution, also enable teachers like you who can create solutions on AI, or at least encourage their students to do that. So there's a United Nations summit that was about to happen in Geneva called AI for Good. You can look at that. There are a lot of good resources available from a sustainable development goals perspective. And it is meant for teachers and general practitioners and public who are looking at using AI from a social science perspective. So there are interesting problems listed out there on what all from a food perspective, farming perspective, climate perspective. And unfortunately, that summit had to be called off. We were taking some of our students to go and do a presentation there along with some teachers. But that's a wonderful resource that you can look at.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, both of you.
Yes, Manla, ma'am, we can move ahead. We'll take the questions later.
No, nothing much, because you went on taking the questions what are there in chat box. So there is no opportunity for me to ask any questions. But as we have seen, there are teachers, they are not only computer teachers, but various subject teachers must be with a lot of questions, how to, bring in AI into their regular teaching. Maybe if you can give them some kind of ideas for various projects, or, they'll get some idea how to go about.
Right. Yeah. In fact, like some of the project ideas that I shared in the end, you can try those out, and you can just look at. In terms of project ideas, I would just say think of the problem. Look at the problem you want to solve, and come up with non-AI specific solutions, and then look at how can technology be used, not just AI, any tech, and based on that, you'll rather than force fitting AI into it, come up with a solution, and then you can see what can be done to make it better if technology can help.
And in fact, Manila ma'am, if you permit, we can also, based on your recommendation, start a climate action club in some of these schools, which can then be given problems which needs to be solved using AI. So we can also work with a few schools and take that forward.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Manav. Now you have got the details of the teachers. No, we can send a mail to them, and those who are interested, they can get back to you, and then we can start. Yes.
Sure, ma'am. And now, we'll just get to the guest speaker question on certificates. Yes, you will be getting certificates. So I'll share towards the end of the session a link for feedback. Once all of you fill the feedback form, I'll know who all have attended. Now, based on that, we'll share the digital copy of the certificate. So yes, and the link of the recording as well. So now, if I can invite Mr. Sudhir. Sudhir, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Safin. Can you hear me?
Okay, hi, Sudhir. Hi. Great to have you. So we'll have Mr. Sudhir, share a few words. He's from the industry. He works for this firm called CGI, and he's been a leader in the tech field. So happy to hear from you, Sudhir, and teachers are eagerly looking forward.
Thank you, Safin. Do you mind just putting the slides I sent you, because that way I can.
Yes, sure. Just give me a second. Start. I'll just share.
No problem. So firstly, thank you, Safin and Mana, for the opportunity. And just a quick introduction. I work for a company called CGI, which specializes in IT consulting. And definitely, I wouldn't call myself as an expert. I would call myself as a practitioner of AI. And the difference between an expert or a practitioner would be the companies like Google's, Facebook's, which develop AI technology would be what I would call as experts. But then I would be a practitioner, just like my message to all the teachers on this call would be to become more of practitioners of AI. And that's hopefully my attempt of the presentation is to sort of, I'm coming from the perspective as a practitioner, how I learned and use that in our industry. It would be a great thing to have you guys sort of let go of a lot of inhibitions, fear, and then how to sort of mentor, coach kids to sort of leverage this AI, one for your own benefit and also for your kids in the future as well. So if you can just move to the next slide, Safin, please. So Safin sort of touched upon this very quickly in terms of why AI. AI has been something that has been there since 1950s, and it's really taken off in the last 10 years only because of 4 important variables. And the reason why I'm sort of bringing this out is because there's a lot of questions saying it's a hype, it'll die very soon. Just like any technology, it goes through a curve and then it sort of dies its own death. But I think this is different than any technology like a SAP or a Java or anything like that you heard of, which always has a sort of a cycle where it goes up and then after a certain point it's sort of comes down. But AI is at least going to get richer and better, and it'll only become more powerful in the coming years, and it'll get more and more sophisticated in the coming years. And there are 4 important reasons why it has really taken off in the last 10 years. So one, our computers have become much faster. So when I did my master's thesis 20 years ago in AI, I had to run a model which now can run in seconds, and Safi just showed you in 20 seconds. And whatever I built and wrote at the time would take me 2 days to run. And these were really powerful computers at the time. So it was impossible to do a lot of simulations and things if you didn't have the right computing sort of power. So that's one big variable. The computers are much faster, and what's even making it faster is the whole cloud sort of industry, right? And cloud, in simple terms, is gives you infinite computing power, infinite database, infinite storage, and you can subscribe to it, and so on. And Amazon's, Google's have a lot of these capabilities. So literally, you have infinite amount of computing and storage capability. The second sort of a thing which has really taken off is data, and the foundation of artificial intelligence is data. And that's really taken off because of how we consume social information, a lot of devices, a lot of internet sites and so on. And that's only going to increase significantly. And just to sort of put that in perspective, 90% of the entire world data, so was sort of generated in the last 2 years itself. And then there's going to be almost a 50 times growth in just the next 10 years. So data is going to be significant, and since the foundation of artificial intelligence is data, it is the right time. So we have computing increase, you have data growth, and then there has also been significant amount of advances in models and algorithms. Somebody has a question about deep learning. So deep learning is sort of the foundation of what you saw when Safin presented. That is, these are sort of the models that have been built by a lot of PhD scientists and so on, with the intent that once they finish with that model, and these are fairly complicated models, to do a very specific sort of prediction. So for example, in the case that Safin showed you, that was a deep learning model to predict image classification. So image in the context of it could be a dog, it could be cat, it's an apple, fruit, whatever. So those are specific neural nets or complex models sort of built by PhDs. But then from a practitioner perspective, I don't need to know, I just need to leverage whatever these models have been built by Googles and Facebooks to sort of then make it practical for us, right? So that's sort of, it's become much simpler to use. And many of the code we write, when I wrote my thesis, 20 years ago, I had written code that was, millions of lines of code to do a, deep learning network. But now all you have to do is like 10 lines. Sometimes you don't even have to write any line of code, and you can still build AI models, right? So AI has definitely come long ways, and now you'll see it even more moving forward. Next slide, Safi. And just to sort of give you an understanding, I won't go through this. It is here to stay. It'll become more and more, sort of prevalent across multiple industries. And if you go to the next slide, specifically in the context of education and teaching, it is going to become even more important. And I'll talk a little bit about it and how it is, very, very important from an education and a teaching industry perspective. Just in 2021 alone, it's projected the adoption of AI would be about 50% growth, right? So there is lots of tools, a lot of technologies is already available from an AI perspective from an education market, and I'll touch upon a few of them. But I think if you go to the next slide, this is sort of where I want to spend more time. And the sort of the broader message I want to give you as a practitioner, to you as teachers, as practitioners, right? There's a lot of myth and reality, and Safin talked about some of them, but I want to hit upon 2 or 3 important sort of points. So it is complicated when you think about it from a deep learning and all those concepts we talked about it, but it has been made simple for us to use as practitioners. All you need to know is the basic concepts, and you can upload pictures, you can run models, and you can get information out, right? So the complication has all been done by the PhDs, the Googles of the world. We don't have to worry about them anymore. So that's the first sort of important image, important perspective I wanted to give, is that you have to have a PhD, you have to have a lot of degree in computer science and statistics to sort of learn AI? The answer is absolutely not. I do not have a PhD, and yet I'm able to use AI in my industry and elsewhere in a lot of ways. Yes, I do have the advantage of programming, but many times you don't even need that. And even if we were to code any of the AI applications today, not more than 10 lines, 15 lines of code. That's all it's going to take, right? And there's a myth that there's a lot of learning curve, and that is not true. Yes, you need to know the concepts, but more importantly, it is important to understand what problems to solve than the AI itself, because it's very important. And I'll sort of hit upon how AI is very natural in the context of teaching industry, and I'll sort of talk about that in a bit. The other one is that there's a lot of perceptions that AI will replace jobs, AI will completely get rid of a lot of the things we're currently doing. The answer is we are far, 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 far away from that future. And this is the first question that I saw when I walked in the chat was about human touch. AI can never replace a human touch, and it's only in terms of the way I would put it is it's about helping us as human beings get to be more human than what we are today, right? It's to sort of augment, complement human capacity. Okay, so basically from you as teaching and faculty and guiding students, I just want you to be cognizant of three things. One, it is the complicated part are already done by the PhDs and the Googles and the Facebooks of the world. So for you, it has been made simple. You just need to drag, drop, and you can start using AI. So that's first point. You need to know the fundamentals of artificial intelligence, but nothing more too complex to know. But please focus on the problems to solve. So that's going to be the more important thing for you as teachers to think about. But before I go there, let me just, if you go to the next slide, I want to connect on how artificial intelligence is, really, really derived from teaching. I mean, this is something that you started. We engineers came in and called it artificial intelligence, are making tons of money out of it. Okay, but you have been doing this for ages and ages and ages, which is teaching minds and kids, right from small kids all the way to high schoolers, on how to sort of learn and do better in life, right? And AI concepts are fundamentally derived from those principles of teaching, whether it's what they call as unsupervised, supervised, or reinforcement. Okay, and I'll sort of make it a little bit there. So which is why I'm saying that artificial intelligence, despite all the fancy things we talk about, is core thing is everything that you teachers are doing day in, day out. It is fundamentally derived from teaching, child psychology, a lot of neurosciences, things that every one of you teachers go through as your fundamental B.Ed and other things and so on, right? So it is natural to you, and we engineers just make it sound fancy and make lots of money out of it. Just to sort of put that into perspective, next slide. I'll sort of elaborate that a little bit more. So, again, I'm not going to the technology of it, but when you think about from an artificial intelligence perspective, we call it supervised learning. And Safin showed you that example of the dog, the cat. That is a classic example of supervised learning, right? And I'll just sort of quote some examples that I got from my wife, who happened to be working in DPS and loved her job. She's just taken a break. So if these examples are bad, you can blame my wife. But these are just some examples from supervised learning that she does every day, day in, day out with her kids, right? So she teaches LKG and UKG, and classic thing that she does is when the kids come in, the basics you teach are them how to write A, B, C, and D, right? And you do that repeatedly. You show them holding their hands. You put that in terms of capital A, capital B, and so on. And then that some kids are doing better, some kids are not doing better. So you actually are telling them that A is written this way, B is written this way, and that's what we call them as labeling. You sort of are labeling them, and you giving them training, right? You're continuously giving them training. And the hope and the intent is over a period of multiple iterations, multiple such attempts, the kid in LKG or UKG starts writing A, B, C on their own. So that's one example. Another example is you teach kids the fundamentals of mathematics through multiplication and additions, and then again you tell them that this is the basics of multiplication. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. You sort of give them that fundamental. So that's giving them labeling and training data. And then you then saying, hey, if you had this, what is 25 times 12, right? So that then becomes the trained model, and upon which the kid then says, oh, I've learned enough practice on training on multiplication, and eventually I can able to do 25 times 12 equals to this, and so on. So that's another example of supervised learning. The other one is connecting alphabets to objects. So A for apple, B for ball, C for cat, and then so on. And this is again another classification of supervised learning where you're teaching alphabets in association with objects. Right. Another classic example of supervised learning is doing labs and experiments. So we have in physics, you learn concept of pendulums, but you go into a lab and then you teach them and show them how to use pendulums, calculate the time, the speed, and all those things like that. Right. So that's another classic example of supervised learning. Are these new concepts to you as teachers? No, you have been, designed to do this. You've been doing this based on multiple years. We just, use the same concepts. You've been doing this for multiple years into computer science and call it supervised learning in neural networks. Right. So another classic example of learning is unsupervised, which is, sort of where you don't handhold, you don't sort of give them pre-print sort of training, but you sort of help them in terms of classification or patterns recognition and so on. So example of that is solving puzzles. Here you tell them basically saying, hey, at high level puzzles you need to start with at the corner of the puzzle, and then you sort of work backwards from there. Or in terms of you give them a bunch of crayons or a bunch of different objects, and you tell the kids saying, can you group them together, right? And the kids sort of learn to group them by color or by similar objects, similar shapes, and so on. So that's a very classic example of unsupervised learning. You're not labeling anything, but you're actually giving kids how to cluster, how to sort of categorize, how to sort of put them together. So that's a very, very great example of unsupervised learning. The other thing is you're broadly, another example is you're teaching kids in terms of, hey, here's a broader set of animals, cows an animal, dogs an animal, and then you have insects. But then the kids go out in the real world, they're able to sort of pattern them and recognize them and saying, this looks like an insect, so it is probably an insect, or this looks like something with 4 legs, so maybe it's an animal, right? So kids are then learning from patterns rather than just sort of specific labeling. And labeling would be then that this is not only a 4 legs, it has a horn, it has a sound, it makes a sound like moo, so that's a cow. That becomes a supervised learning. Okay, so my point here is that I'm sort of using these examples from teaching and something that you have been sort of your area of competency, which is what the industry or computer science or Googles are using to build artificial intelligence. So it's fundamental to what you do, and we have just adopted it in this industry. So you, of all the people, should be very natural with artificial intelligence more than any of us, because teaching and learning comes to you, as a gift. And this is what you do day in, day out. So your role moving forward is two ways. One, how can you start using artificial intelligence in your day-to-day as a teacher? And I'll sort of talk about just few examples. And then how can you as a teacher, mentor, coach, enable kids to sort of embrace this technology? So just few quickly as a user, if you go to the next slide, please. So these are some examples. So, in terms of role as a user, and as Safin talked about, artificial intelligence is not to replace you. The human touch can never be replaced for a long, long time. But if you have a lot of boring administrative activities, for example, I know when my wife used to do that, she loved interacting with the kids, and she wished that she would spend more time with the kids rather than doing a lot of administrative work. So, for example, it's about collecting information or doing a lot of surveys or writing reports. These are things that where they're important, but more important is connecting with the kids. What if those could be eliminated for you? What could be automated for you? And that's where really artificial intelligence comes in, right? So there are AI tools in education today that can help do reports and help you do assessments very well, help do a lot of the administrative functions of the school in terms of grading, certain things in terms of admission processing. These are all the things that can be, sort of done so that you teachers don't have to do all those manual administrative works today, and artificial intelligence can help you do it, right? And that's important because that 20%, 30% time that's being saved for you, you can then help your kids get better, and that's what you really enjoy, right? So these are just some examples of how artificial intelligence can help you as a teacher. Moving on to the next slide, and this is just one of the things that's been developed where, AI in classrooms can even tell which kid is attentive or not attentive. And I know immediately in your mind, you can go, so no, now I can exactly tell which kids were not in the class. It isn't meant for that, but definitely for sure who's paying attention or not paying attention, you can pinpointly tell that part. But the intent of this is that you can give personalized education to kids, to where you know that based on the who's paying attention or not in the class, that there is something going on with this kid that's happening to where they're not able to. Maybe it's something in the house, maybe it's something about the subject itself they're not able to get. It could be a combination of complex variables, which you as teachers are really, really good at it, but you don't have the time, you don't have the bandwidth to sort of know who it is and all that stuff. Sometimes you get a sense, sometimes you don't, but it immediately tells you of this 20 kids who are the ones who are not able to pay attention and why. And if you see this happen over multiple days, multiple weeks, then you can go to that kid based on the data from this tool saying, hey, something is wrong, you're not able to pay attention, so help me out. What's going on? Is something okay at home, not okay at home? And then you can help that kid rather than not having that information at all, right? So this is one classic example of how AI can help your teachers. So this one, is sorry, the video is not there, but in terms of teachers who are focused in art, and help that. And like I remember my wife was struggling to do artwork, and basically it can, if you on the left side, if you start doing a rough sketch of something you want to do. And some teachers are really, really good at art, some teachers are not, but they all have to do art in their LKG and UKG curriculums, right? What it does on the right side, AI automatically starts doing a better version of whatever scratchy art you're doing on the left side, right? So it actually makes it look better, and you can take that and then publish it into whatever you need to do, right? So it can help you sort of really enable your art skills even though you have none as a teacher, right? So that's another application of art. Next slide, please. And this one is an AI tutor which you can just give to kids. They can just take a picture, and then in this case it's on how it helps kids solve complex calculus questions and so on. So that way, when you're teaching, you teach concepts at school, and many times kids have tuition and so on. But today's kids are far more comfortable with computers. They're far more comfortable with mobile phones, right? And for that, their connection with devices like that, it's far more intuitive. So you can give an AI tutor where they click on an equation that they're not able to solve, and this AI tutor literally actually helps them solve them step by step by step all the way to the answer, right? So that's just another example of how you can take that, right? So these are tools for you as teachers, as a user to think about. But then this is my last slide and I'll stop here. And my broader message here is that, whatever, we don't want to make sound AI as a technology challenge, the technology barrier. AI derived very well from the fact that it came from the industry of teaching. It came from the industry of education. So the fact that we have supervised models, unsupervised models is a very little psychology what you teachers have been doing for years and centuries and so on. So please don't be scared about it. We have made it simpler from an industry perspective. So all you need to do is learn the concepts. Your role is more important to encourage kids, use it yourself, just based on the tools that Safin showed you. But more importantly, please think about problems that you can use AI data to sort of help. And I sort of gave you some examples in terms of admission process, chat, collecting information from students, anything in terms of grading, things like that. They're already there. These tools already exist today where you don't have to do them. The tools can do it, so that way you can spend more quality time with your students and so on. And then the last sort of two bits of advice I wanted to do is, it's very easy to get, carried away with the technology of AI and start doing some really complex things like using images and things like that. I would say start with very simple things. I mean, even in an industry like us, that is the sort of approach we take, where we have fairly sophisticated computer science engineers. We start with very simple problems before we move to complex topics. So just think about what sort of problems you can target. For example, there was a question on social sciences, right? And in the context of social sciences, how can, it's about interaction of, citizens with the society and things. Can you think of problems that where the kids can make a difference in the society in terms of education itself, in the terms of alleviating poverty or improving ethics, improving, advances in poverty alleviation? These are all important topics, and AI has a role to play. Okay, and hello, and then the last point I want to make is, AI's objective and is not to replace jobs. Clearly, I know, at least from whatever I can see and know, it's impossible to replace the human touch. Okay, and the idea of intent of AI is to only augment and complement, so you don't have to do a lot of administrative and repetitive tasks and become more value as a teacher, as a mentor to the students. That's the objective. And if you can think about problems and guide students to embrace this, and you can lead as a role model to embrace this further, then I think the intent of AI is, as human beings, to make it to make us more human. I mean, that's sort of the broader message. And I'll sort of pause here. If there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to take it.
Okay, that was really helpful and very informative, Sudhir, and thank you for breaking it down further. And like Manila ma'am mentioned, Sudhir is actually the business unit leader and the senior vice president at CGI, and he also heads CSR India for CGI. So he's a very well said, practitioner of AI, and from somebody who does not, create using AI, but a practitioner of AI. It's perfect for all teachers, looking at how supervised and unsupervised learning came about. So nothing to worry about. We're all experts at it, just about getting the terms and, the way to do it, right? So thanks a lot for that, Sudhir. Yeah. And now we have the last 5 minutes. We have been talking about teachers and, how to teach students. So we have the last 5 minutes. I have a student team, the winner of the AI challenge who just came in. As part of IBM and CPSC program, we had a challenge called AI for Better India, where we told students 6 hours of AI content you learn similar to what the teachers learn right now. And how about coming up with problems that you want to solve using AI? And how will you come with AI solutions? And these were the students who were the top team that won. And I'm happy to introduce them, Akanksha, Yash, and Ansh. They'll do a quick 3-minute presentation of what their solution is, and we'll have a quick chat with them. And in fact, teachers, you can also ask them any questions. How did they learn AI, without knowing much about it? So over to you guys.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are Team Health Hub. On visiting a village of Bihar, we observed the difficult challenges of healthcare in these areas.
One second, Ansh, are you sharing your screen?
Just a second. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just come up. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. On visiting a village in Bihar, we observed the difficult challenges of healthcare in these areas. People did not have access to the very basic medical facilities. There was a very limited number of doctors due to a poor doctor-patient ratio of 1:11,000. The nearest hospital in this village was 270 kilometers away, resulting in a significant burden of cost and time.
Villagers were often not diagnosed as they cannot afford a doctor or travel to a hospital as they cannot miss out on their daily wages for livelihood, thus spread infection and lead a very poor quality of life.
The only viable solution that we found on talking to people was building hospitals. But the truth is that the doctors are overburdened and the hospitals are ill-equipped. So we wanted a more practical approach by using innovation and technology to improve healthcare delivery. And that is why we have created Health Hub, a one-stop, easy-to-use kiosk specifically designed for rural areas, connecting remote areas to doctors using AI.
Health Hub follows a fourfold approach, centered on an all-in-one affordable setup, connecting remote areas to doctors, along with a smart diagnosis and suggesting medication and prescription, improving and adapting every time. It not only makes health services more available, but also eases the doctor's job.
Currently, Health Hub allows booking appointments with doctors, calling ambulances instantly, along with viewing nearby hospitals. It dispenses medicines and informs doctors about each diagnosis made.
This is how we began with our level 1 prototype, which has been incorporated with many languages and features since we had started. Now, let's see it in action with the most important feature of an independent diagnosis, where we have tried to replicate a doctor's thought process with a combination of artificial intelligence and doctor's own input.
We'll be showing you short snippets from each stage. Number one, the patient talks to the machine to sign in, then image
Please bring your
acquisition.
hands for any spot on body in front of the camera to take image of. Taking image. Please wait.
Then they can use machines.
Use the thermometer by placing your hand in front and pressing the trigger. Enter its reading in Fahrenheit below.
Then they can enter their symptoms.
Diagnosis. Stage 3. Enter known symptoms. Enter symptom number 1.
Then our machine generates questions,
Are you experiencing chills?
usually about 8 questions. Then a final
Given symptoms
prescription.
is given below. Result of IR is given below. These results may not be correct. Please have them looked at by a local doctor. No skin disease detected. Congratulations. Okay, your diagnosis is complete. Your symptoms have been sent to our doctor at yvonne474@gmail.com.
We send all the collected data to a doctor who gives a corrected prescription, which we use to store and
We
improve.
have received the following mail latest. If you have already collected medicines, press 1. To collect medicine, press 2.
Going forward, we have also built an updated and more deployable version of Health Hub in the past 2 months. It contains of prescription services, medicine and machine storage, along with portable storage for them. On the current situation, we believe Health Hub could have increased testing, allow easy medical health records, ease the load on doctors, along with protecting against malprescriptions. On the technical part, Health Hub allows image recognition and the user can talk to the machine in over 11 Indian languages. It has a minimal cost and we've also developed a self-improving database for the diagnosis. These are the summary of the learnings we got from 1M 1B, Safin Sir and IBM CBSE. We were told how to handle big data and train AI models, which we then integrated into our code. And we were also, most importantly, I think we were taught about finding solutions through a more practical approach by the easy science behind artificial intelligence.
And this is what we plan to achieve up to a point where only asking where is the nearest health hub would be enough to get a good quality and affordable healthcare for anyone, anywhere. Since the lockdown began, more than 8 lakh patients have not been able to get access to proper healthcare due to shortages of doctors.
We believe all these problems in the pandemic could have been avoided if there was a health hub near. And that is why this is our future plan where we will take this for initial testing in villages soon. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Akanksha, Ansh, and Yash. Brilliant presentation and great example of how if students are activated and shown how to use AI, they can work on it. We can take any questions that you have for students. And meanwhile, I'll start it off. Questions to three of you. You're in 12th grade now. When you did this last year in 11th, did you know much about AI and how did you come up with the solution? Was it difficult, coming up with the AI solution as such without knowing much about AI?
I think we only knew what our machine should be capable of as the end product. And as we were taught about the AI services by IBM, we used them to solve a particular problem and all of it got integrated into one solution.
Okay. So if you have to give as the AI experts here, if you have to give a tip to all the teachers on how to best teach AI to all the students, what would you say? Because you have been learning AI, what's your suggestion?
I think definitely a practical, more hands-on approach to learning. We were taught by showing image recognition and speech recognition, not in a theoretical way, but we did know about the theory. I think that really helped, a more practical approach and actually integrating it.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys. Thank you for that. Teachers, any questions you have for the students?
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Rekha Prakash. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. That's an amazing effort from your end. Now, my question is, what is the amount of data you had to put in terms of the resources that you had to use and the effort and the time spent on that?
We currently have data on about 40 diseases, about 200 images on image recognition, and of course the rest Ansh knows. He is the medical expert here.
Okay.
So, you can say that our machine is currently under the research and development stage. So our aim goes like crossing at least 100, 200 diseases, but currently we have stored data for about 40 diseases. So this basically involves putting in all the symptoms of each disease, the cure of each disease, along with that, some certain diseases that require a camera and, certain skin infections, and, the computer can use its camera and have a look at the image, and then, they can reach a diagnosis. So this sort of information was put in. So currently, we do have a lot of information, but we still have a long way to go.
Okay, so does this mean you had to do your research in terms of what were the commonly seen diseases or the conditions that the rural populace might be facing or might come across? So that information you need to have before you feed the data for your project, right?
Yeah, and we actually had to trim all of the data as well for the
On a
common
ground
diseases.
level, we can say, on a ground level, we can say I am a biology student. So everything in my NCRT, I have put it inside of this machine. Plus, we referred a lot of external resources.
Okay. Okay. So the time that you had to spend on this, I mean, because that would help us guide our students better. Because on a given 24-hour day, how much time did you have to spend on this for over a period of, say, how many weeks or months that you had to do this?
Yeah, like I like to answer that.
Yes.
We have been working on this project since last year, actually, but since last few months we are putting a lot of time. Like every day we spend an hour and two. We have meetings, like we decide our work and we just do every day. It's like we have made this a subject, like physics. This is like a subject for us, and we work through this like this only.
Okay, so that's nice. So anyway, congratulations once again and thanks a lot. So all the very best.
Thank you, guys. That was good. And with that, we've come to the end of the presentation. I've shared the link for the feedback. I would request all the teachers to kindly share the feedback, so that, we capture the email from there and accordingly we'll send you the certificates. So hope you enjoyed and, would like to know more from you. Thanks everyone for staying back till the end. Manav, over to you for the closing words, and then Manila ma'am.
No, I would just like to say thank you to everyone, especially Sudhir and the teachers for sparing your valuable Saturday on this session. And it was great to have Sudhir. You shared with us the industry perspective. I know you were getting a big initiative in CGI, so thank you for getting that. And of course, thanks to the Health Hub team for sharing and making it real. And you all are inspiring a lot of students to do something similar. So thank you, everyone. And thank you, Manila ma'am, again for giving my team at 1M1B this opportunity. Hope we can continue more sessions, and my team would be happy to help you out in any of the stuff as you embark on this journey on AI. So thank you so much, Safin.
I have a quick request. If everyone can, quickly put on a camera for about 5 seconds. I want to quickly take a picture of all the teachers. That would be nice.
I think Manila ma'am is also there. You can, yeah.
Yes. Oh, wonderful. All have come on. So I'll just take a quick picture. 1 second. Yes. Yes, I've got everyone. All right. Thanks a lot, everyone. It's good to have a picture.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for the whole team. Very informative.
Manila ma'am, would you like to?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Manav, for coming to my rescue, because when I was looking for somebody who can take up session for AI, I was really looking for somebody who could take sessions for Bangalore Sahodaya school teachers as well as principals. And you readily agreed to take up this session, and thank you so much for sharing so much of information. And today we had teachers from different subjects, and I was reading in the chat box, they've written very clearly that, you have created interest in us. So that is something very, very good from this workshop. Thank you, Safin, for making the workshop so interesting by showing various activities so the teachers also can start using in the classrooms. Thank you, Mr. Sudhir, for your motivating words. You coming from a family where your wife is a teacher, I think you know exactly what the teachers are facing, and that is what you have put it across. And thank you, young boys and a girl, for your project. Congratulations from all of us here from Bangalore Sahodaya schools. And thank you and God bless you, dear participants. Please fill up the feedback form, after which you'll be receiving the e-certificates. And the recording will be uploaded on Sahodaya website as well. Those who are not getting the link here, it will be uploaded. You can download from there and have a look at it. Thank you so much, Manu.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, the whole team of AI. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Harish.
Have a good weekend and have a good day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Where can you see that link?